All right. Okay. So today, like I said, we are moving away from browser and getting into the server-side JavaScript. Okay. So can anyone tell me, like, if you already know, like, JavaScript can run in server as well, like both you already know it can run in browser, but anyone of you it can run in server as well? Okay, I take it as a no. And okay, how many of you know what are some server-side programming languages, like other than Node.js, like which we are going to discuss about today, but any other server-side programming languages? Akash?
PHP.
Correct. Others?
I have no idea.
Who was that?
No idea, sir.
Okay. Who said PHP then?
Arvind.
Okay. Thank you, Arvind. Okay. Anyways, I will give a small introduction to server-side programming languages. So I think long back we introduced this structure. Okay. Thank God I have this. Okay. So we have a client and we have a server and we have a database. Like, why do we need this server? So why not browser directly call the database and update the database? So the reason is, like, so the browsers are on the client end. Okay. And if any client can access the database without any security interference, so that will be a great security issue, right? So anybody can access the database, anybody can delete things in the database, only the authenticated people can access the database. When you say authenticated people with the proper username and password who are logged in, they need to access the database. So the server-side programming languages, say the Node.js, PHP, Rust is very popular now, and there is .NET, C#, Java. So all these frameworks and languages are server-side programming languages and frameworks which lets you run some code in the server, which listens for the browser request, whatever request you are providing. In your previous to-do app, you were storing your to-do in the local storage. But the limitation with local storage and any other browser storage is that it persists only in the browser. When you go to another person's browser, or even you do that in Chrome, you store the to-do items in Chrome and you go to Firefox, now your to-do lists are gone. So we need to persist it somewhere, which is where the database comes in. I believe you all have attended some MySQL basic classes, right? So this is stored in the database, but this database need to be accessed under a secure environment. So ideally, if you think about it, the database doesn't need to even expose to internet. So the database don't even need to expose to internet. So your server, right, this Node.js part, this is being accessed by the browser. This is being communicated by the browser. In this case, this client is browser or your mobile app or even your smartwatch, your some devices like voice assistants like Alexa, Google Home. All these things are considered as clients, and whenever you provide some input, in case of voice assistants like Alexa or Google Home, you talk with them, and then that particular request is sent to Node.js. In case of browser, you browse the web like Google, or you check your email with Gmail, and you watch movies and Netflix. All these things, the browser sends a request to the server, and the server processes it, does some things, and then it gets data from it. It checks if you are a logged in subscribed user, if you are watching Netflix or Amazon Prime. So it asks for username, password, checks in the database if you have subscribed and you paid for the subscription, and then only they let you watch the movie. So all these things which happens before even accessing the database happens inside the server-side programming language. So it checks your inputs. I mean, the request parameters, we already looked into the status code, the headers, and all those stuff, right? So in this case, we have a web server. It's as for the client asks for HTML, the web server returns the HTML and CSS. So all these things, all these response stuff, right? In this case, the browser is giving the request and the server is giving the response. So when I say server is giving the response, who is handling this? Who's handling this operation of sending the response is this kind of a server-side programming language. Okay. Now, so like we have already discussed, a HTTP request might be a GET request, POST request, put, delete, and all those stuff. And this we see the HTTP response as well. So we see this HTTP response, but where is this response coming from? From the server. So once the server has processed your request successfully, it will send a 200 response. Okay, if it is failure code, you already know. In your initial class, you have all showed me this failure code. I mean, different kind of HTTP response codes. Like 1xx is like the server acknowledges and is processing the request. It's in process, and success codes are 200, and 201 is resources created, and so on and so forth. And redirection. If there is, if the requested resource is not found, you throw 404, which comes under 4xx. If the server has any issues, it throws 500, 5xx, all these things. So all these, this 5xx, the 404, all these things are being thrown from the server. So when I say server, so there is something that handles all these things. The browser requests, sending the response, all these things are being handled by something which is a server-side programming language. Okay. So this cannot be seen from the browser. In browser, you can see your HTML, your CSS, and JavaScript as well. So when I say JavaScript, this is the browser-specific JavaScript in this case, whatever you are seeing in the browser. But there is a server-specific JavaScript. In this case, Node.js, we'll come back to it. Like Node.js is not only server-side JavaScript, but there are other frameworks or runtimes as well. And like I said, so Node.js is a server-side programming language that processes the request from the browser, communicates with the database, gets the data, and send it back to the browser. Any doubt so far? Like, I believe during this class, Akash asked me a doubt, like, why do we need a server-side programming language? Akash, are you still having the doubt, or you're clear with it?
No, sir, I'm clear with that actually.
Awesome. Okay. If any of you have doubt as well, please ask me. And before I proceed to this, I'll clear that. Okay. So server-side JavaScript. So which means you can run JavaScript in server. So what makes this happen? Like how can JavaScript run in the server? So you might have heard of Node.js, but if not, Node.js is a runtime. So we call it popular JavaScript runtime. It's not like you should not call it as a framework. You should not call it as a programming language. JavaScript is a programming language. Node.js is a runtime. Why do I call it as a runtime? Can anyone tell me, like, how do you compile a C program? You all might have C or Java program, whatever programming language you might have used. Can anyone tell me how do you compile a C program and run it? Pavan, Akash, Amalya.
Line by line.
Sorry?
Line by line compile. First line.
Okay, that is fine. What there is a compiler. You already told me there is a compiler, right? GCC compiler or something like that. So you compile the C file. There is a make command, and then you will run it. So which means your C code is converted into what? When it compiles, you convert it into what?
Mission language.
Exactly. Okay. So compare into class file and the machine code. Okay. The machine code is what the machine understands. So what happens to JavaScript in this case? In browser, when we write some JavaScript and you have completed the to-do application in the last exercise. So the in browser you are running the JavaScript. So how does it compiles? Like, so C is being compiled by GCC, but how does JavaScript gets compiled? Any idea? Okay, so JavaScript is being compiled by your browser. So the browser takes care of compiling the JavaScript to machine language so that the machine understands similar way as C's compiler GCC converts it into a machine code. Okay, so which means something in JavaScript is doing that. I forgot to mention that part. In Chrome we have something called V8. So there are other browsers using some other engines as well. So V8 is a Node.js engine, we can call it. If any of you are interested in automobile engines or something, V8 is a kind of engine as well. So they named it as V8, their JavaScript engine. Okay. So when I say JavaScript engine, this particular part of browser, which we call it as V8, takes the JavaScript you write, compiles into machine code, and run it. That's how you see your alert and whatever JavaScript you write, right? That gets when it is running, that is this V8 running your piece of JavaScript for you. Okay. So one clever guy, his name is Ryan Dahl. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Ryan Dahl. And what he did is like, he took this V8 engine from browser and isolated it and made it run on the in an isolated way. Let's not call it in server because you can run it in your local machine as well, right? So which means he separated this V8 engine, and then now you can run it run it away from the browser. So which means now you can write a JavaScript, and without browser you can compile the JavaScript and run it. That is what it means. So that is when Node.js has born. Okay, now Node.js is not a framework, Node.js is not a language, it's a runtime. It runs your JavaScript for you. It compiles your JavaScript for you. That's why we call it as a runtime. Okay, so the problem where the confusion comes is like, we call it Node.js, and it uses JavaScript, and we suddenly, since it is Node.js, we think it is like a programming language or something. So still it is normal JavaScript, but what Node.js does is like, it compiles this JavaScript to a machine code and runs it for you. Okay, now you can run it in any server, any local machine, since this V8 engine is separated from the browser and available for you to run in an isolated way. Okay, any doubt on this? Because if you don't understand this part, it will be difficult for you. If you understand, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. I believe everyone understand, right? Aravind, Amulya, Pawan, and Akash, everyone understand, yes, right? Okay. Awesome. Now, so is Node.js is the only runtime? No, there is a funny thing. Do you see this Dino? Like now, you can see this is a perfect anagram of Node.js, right? N-O-D-E. This has been turned into D-E and Dino. So if you see the website, like this is the website of Dino. I'll come back like, what is this Dino? The small dinosaur, right? Now, what this particular guy, Ryan Dahl, did, sorry, maybe I'll show him. So he's the creator of Node.js. Okay. Now, at some point, what he did is like, you must watch this YouTube video as well. This.
Sir, are you sharing your screen to other device?
Oh.
Yes, sir.
You are not able to see my screen?
It was actually focused on browser, actually.
Are you able to see a YouTube video in my screen?
Yes, sir, no. Okay.
Now it's good.
Yeah. Now, can someone read this? Anyone?
10 things I regret about Node.js.
So this guy created Node.js, and then after some years, I did a big mistake of creating Node.js. So I'm going to rewrite everything and call it as Dino. Okay, so This is just information. This is a fun information. But the problem is like so much of job opportunities has been created on Node.js. Even I have worked on Node.js and people are still using Node.js. It's been run by a separate open source community now. It is being popularly used. But still, so the founder of Node.js decided to go ahead and create a new framework called Dino. Now this is being popularized now. People are starting to adapt it, but still it did not get the full adoption. But this is a very awesome runtime. Again, like Dino is another JavaScript runtime like Node.js, which is created by the same founder of Node.js. And there is another thing called bun.sh, which boasts like it is one of the fastest JavaScript runtime of all. Okay, so why they call it as toolkit is like it keep on changing as package manager, bundler, runtime. So what they're saying is like when you're using JavaScript, you have to use some other stuff also with it, like bundling it, like adding other few stuff as well. But what they're boasting is like we have everything within this bun.sh. You don't need to use any external tools or anything. So. And also they post some benchmarks as well. Can anyone see this? Like, can everyone see this?
Yes, sir.
So, which means they're saying like Bun can handle this many HTTP requests per second, like 71,375. Dino can handle 38,000 only. Node.js is like last year. But if you think, why am I learning Node.js now? Because if you learn Node.js, you can it is equal to learning all this stuff. That Dino uses something called TypeScript, which is like a typed version of Node.js. We will come back to that. I mean, typed version of JavaScript. Yeah. So whenever I say Node.js, I'm mentioning about the runtime. So I'm saying it again and again. This Node.js, Dino, Bun, all these things are runtimes. They found a different way to compile JavaScript efficiently. Okay. So everything is JavaScript. Even Bun.js writes JavaScript only. If you see Bun.js code, so this is still JavaScript only. Okay. But the only difference is like under the hood, these three people are compiling JavaScript in different ways. So Bun uses something called Zig, a programming language called Zig to compile JavaScript and run it. They call it, they are telling it is much faster. Deno uses Rust under the hood to compile and run JavaScript. I believe they are also using V8 as well, but I'm not sure about that. But Node.js purely uses V8 under the hood, and you can see all the version of JavaScript runtimes down here. But we are going to concentrate on Node.js alone in this tutorial. But you are open to explore these two as well. Maybe in future, people will be using Dino or Bun. But anyways, if you are good with JavaScript and you know how JavaScript runs in the server, you are good to go with all these frameworks as well. All right. Okay. So, yeah, this is all about the drama and things happening around Node.js ecosystem. Okay, since it is an open source community, right? Anyone can like fork a repo, and then they can create their own version of JavaScript runtime or anything like that. So it happens a lot in JavaScript community. It keeps on, the framework keeps on evolving. New frameworks come daily and all those stuff. But one thing as a JavaScript developer you need to keep in mind is like always be good at basic JavaScript things. So whatever frameworks are, whatever JavaScript runtimes come, if you are good with basic JavaScript, you're good to go. All right. Okay. Now, module systems. So what are module systems? So you cannot write all your code in one giant file, right? Like, yes, people didn't see in older days, but not these days, right? At least in programming languages like Java or any other programming languages, the current mainstream programming languages, people write code in different files and they link it together. They import code from another file in one file, and then they use it inside the file. That's how they reuse the code, right? So they write a function in one code, they call it utils, and then they use it across. People use it across other files as well. So that is why we need a module system for that. A module system is like you break your code into different modules and then import it whenever it's needed. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. You know what is a module system, or if you don't understand, tell me. I'll explain again. Yeah. Awesome. Now we know what is a module system. Now, what kind of module system does Node.js? And again, there is a confusion as well. So the server-side JavaScript is full of confusions, but once you understand few things, you're good to go. So we have two types of module systems. One is CommonJS, one is ESM. So you don't need to think about this CommonJS at all going forward because we are going away with it. This is the initial thing. You can concentrate on this ECMAScript module system alone. So some way when you write something, you need to export that. In this case, we are exporting a function called hello, say hello. In a minute, we can write this in the VS Code as well. I will show you. And once you have exported, so this is how you import it. So here you are writing module.exports. I'm exporting a module. What am I exporting? I'm exporting a. Yes. Can you come again?
Please share பண்றது already இருக்காம் அதே பேஜ்ல இருக்கு.
You are not seeing this module system? No?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me stop the sharing. I don't know what is happening. Let me share it again. Entire screen, share. Okay, now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can see module system, right? So you are not able to see this at all? Anyone? Hey, please let me know. Otherwise, I will be thinking like you guys are able to, you folks are able to see this. Okay. Oh, yeah, like I said, Node.js has two types of module system. One is CommonJS, ECMAS, and ESM. Going forward, you'll be using only ECMAScript. Since this has been there from the beginning, some old code bases are still using CommonJS. So Node.js is supporting this. So far now, we can just have a knowledge like this exists, but whenever you write new Node.js code, you don't need to use this CommonJS part. You can use the ECMAScript module system. So we'll see one by one. In CommonJS, we use module.exports, and then this is object. Inside that, we are exporting a function called say hello. How do we import it? I use const, whatever variable name you want to give, and then I use this keyword called require. This is important. So require and then ./utils, which means this particular file resides in the same directory as same location as this particular file. Imagine these two things are in different files. Okay. Just for example, I'm putting it together, but imagine these two things are in different files, and this is in one file exporting, and this is in another file importing. Okay. In CommonJS, we use something called require. This is the older module system. You can see. So files in CommonJS use require to load modules and module.exports to export functionality. So CommonJS is an older module system for Node.js introduced when Node.js was first created. Now ECMAScript module system. So ECMAScript stands for I think European Computer Manufacturers Association or something. Yeah. So these people set standards of the core JavaScript language itself. Forget about the browser and stuff, but the core JavaScript language itself. So JavaScript has only var, then they introduced let and const. JavaScript doesn't have map, set, weak map, and all those stuff. Then they introduced all this stuff. The async and await keywords we have seen, right? All those things, they keep on updating the language, right? The who decides on updating this language? So this particular group, the ECMA, they decide to update JavaScript, and they give versions like this, ES6, ES 2015, something like that. Okay, so that's the story about ECMA. And so the ECMAScript version, ESM supported version of defining modules is looks something like this. So this is how you export function. The same function, hello world, you can see like this is a little bit clumsy, but this is very neat, right? You just put an export before your function, and boom, it's exported, and you just import, and then you. So there is something called export default as well. If you put an export default, you don't need to destructure this. We call it destructuring, which means if you export multiple items, you can import multiple items with this destructuring symbol. I will explain you what it is. So yeah, this is how the current module system works, and whatever code it's written nowadays uses this particular module system, and this is the older way of importing and exporting modules. Any doubts? Thumbs up?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Awesome. So we are done with module systems, and yeah, let's go ahead and I have put some small differentiation here. Like you can check this later, or we can quickly check this. So use require and module.exports to um, import and export modules in CommonJS. Use import and export clearly in ECMAScript modules. So this is synchronous blocking. This is asynchronous non-blocking. You know what is synchronous, what is asynchronous, right? Using the async await thing. So which means like when you do require or module.exports, so until this particular module is exported, everything freezes. Since JavaScript is a single-threaded programming language, which applies to Node.js as well. Still, it is a single-threaded programming language in server as well. Okay. We spoke about the main thread, and you should not block the main thread. All those things, everything applies in Node.js as well. Okay. File extensions. So .js, there is something else .cjs as well. I think I forgot it, but you can use CJS and say explicitly it is a common JS module system. And for ECMAScript models, you call it as MJS or .js in new Node.js versions. It will take it. But if you are using .js, it's better to use type module in the package JSON. Now, what is package JSON? I will come back to that. Okay, forget about all these things. These are a little bit advanced. Restaking is like if you have any dead code, it is automatically removed by ESM modules. Okay. So we'll come back to this. Let's get into code now. Okay, I'll create. Can you all see my VS Code?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's create a simple Node.js project. So one thing is like Node.js has something called REPL, REPL. REPL stands for read, eval, print, loop. So read, eval, print, loop. So which means I run something called I have Node.js already installed in my machine. If you want to install Node.js while we are while I'm teaching, you go to Node.js. I believe everyone is running Windows, right? So you'll be having executable. You just click download Node.js, click next, like any of your Windows application, and Node.js will be installed for you. Okay. So once it is installed, you can see like this downloads Node.js version 2022.11.0, which is a long-term support. We call it LTS. Why long-term support? This is a stable version. Okay, this is a stable version of Node.js. Everything, all the APIs, everything is stable. But if you want to, be a little bit braver and use, in your local machine, you can all use the latest version. But in server, this if you are using this version, things might break. But so what this is like, this is a very latest version of Node.js. Normally, when we are running it in production mode, like in real applications, people use this LTS version, the long-term support version. Okay. So in the homepage itself, they have given a simple, simple HTTP server example. So this will run a HTTP server and act as a API layer for you. You can see they are using ESM modules, right? Yeah. Yeah. So when they are using this node :HTTP, they are saying they are using some internal modules which is available in the Node.js itself. So they have already, Node.js has already developed all these modules for you. You can directly import them without installing any package or anything. So when I say install any package or anything, I'll come back to that, what I mean. But before that, if you want to install Node.js, you can install now, and you can follow up with me as well. Okay. So yeah. But I prefer doing it later because I'll be moving a little bit faster. So it's better. You can listen now. So I have installed Node.js. I give node --version to check the version of Node.js. I'm using version 22.11.0, which is the latest version, the LTS version. Okay. Now I type node. So you can see it has opened something. So this is what we call as REPL. So why do we call it REPL? Read, eval, print, loop. Let's say I give ES equal to 10. So it prints me 10. So now what has it does? What did it do now? It has read the code I have written, which is read. It has evaluated the code, which is like, let's do something like this. ES equal to 10 plus 2, or is 12. Evaluated means, let's say it run my code. So who runs my code? Anyone? Who runs the Node.js code for me? So Node.js is what? A runtime. Okay. So which part of Node.js runs the JavaScript for me? Engine. Name of the engine. V8. Correct. Okay. So V8 is running the JavaScript for me. Okay. Which the same V8 which runs the JavaScript in browser has been isolated and put into this Node.js package which you have installed in your system that runs the JavaScript for me now. Okay. So it has read, the V8 has run the code, which is evaluate part, and it has printed that output here, which is print, and then again it is asking for the input, which is looping. It keeps on asking. If I put b is equal to 23 into 2, it's again asking. So that's why it's called read eval print loop. So this is just a way to run Node.js directly in the terminal. Normally, in actual application, we don't do that, but just for testing purposes, quickly you can run some JavaScript here. The same, whatever you can do in JavaScript, you can do it here. Okay, now I'm exiting from here. I do like Control-C, Control-C, it will exit from that REPL. And then let's create some space, Sayur, and yeah, let's call it JS server side JS. I'll open my code editor here. I'll close this. Oops, I think I closed the wrong window. Yeah. Now I'm going to create a small index.js. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just naming it as index.js. Okay. Now I write my code like so. Let's try to use that module system. So you already know. So anyways, maybe what we can do is like we can use the same console.log which we use in the browser. Okay. To the usual hello world thing. And how am I going to run this file? I'm going to do node and then index.js. This will print hello world for me. This is how you run the Node.js code. Easy peasy. You just run node, the file name, and then it runs the JavaScript for you, and it will be printed here. So the same console log. In browser, what is the global object? Remember? Oops, sorry. So if you go to browser, window is my global object. So all other methods and everything runs, happens, exists inside this window global object in browser. Similarly, in Node.js, there is something called global. So global has all the, this is a global object for this server-side JavaScript, which means for Node.js. So similarly, window in browser. Okay. Now, yeah, we know how to run the JavaScript. Let's define some modules. Okay, let's call it utils.js. We'll do the same. Export. We'll do the ESM way. Let's forget about the common case way. Okay. I don't know by default this will work, but I'll try that. Okay. Export const say hello, and then we make it as function, and then inside the function we will say console.log same hello world. Okay. Now, so I do import here, like we did in ESM modules. Import, we destructure it. From where are we importing from? From the utils. You don't need to put the .js here, so it will by default it will understand it is a JavaScript file. Now imported this say hello here. I just call the say hello method here, and then I run the same node index.js, and it fails. See what happens. Okay, input.js. Okay. I think I need to specify this case. Yes. So ideally, okay, I'm not sure, but yeah. So this is how you import a module. So, I mean, this is how you export something. You can export some other method as well. Let's say I copy this, and then add. Let's say we take no a comma b, and then for log a plus b. Go back. Now, since I have exported this as well, I have the add method as well. So I can give like 2,3 for JS. It said hello, and then it can add the number. You keep on you can keep on exporting this. Okay, so stick with this module system, but know that but you should know there is a common JS way of importing and exporting modules as well. Yeah, so in old code you can see a lot of common JS related import and export as well. So far good? Thumbs up. Or if you don't understand, then stop me and ask questions. Great. Okay, now we know how to split your code into multiple files and then import your code from one file to another and then run it. We are good. Now let's get a little bit fancy. Let's run a web server. We just conveniently copy this file, paste it here. Okay. So now we have this node HTTP, which is already available in Node.js. Whenever you install Node.js, you get this for free. Okay. So when I say get this for free, you don't need to write it yourself. HTTP server. Node.js comes with a built-in HTTP server. So this says create server. It has a request and a response. You can call it as request and response as well. Like it is like a whatever name you want. And since we have changed it here, I need to rename it here as well. Response.end. Okay. So what I'm saying is like, so this is how you set your status codes. You think the status codes will be automatically written? No, we explicitly say this is a success and set the status code from the server, because you as a developer only know when post or something is created, it is a 200. You need to say to the response object, like in the header, write it as a 200 request. And I'm telling you this is going to be a content type of text uplink. I mean, the server is communicating with the browser or any other client which is requesting it. In your case, your phone or Alexa voice assistant or something. The server is going to tell them like, yes, this request is success, and the content type I'm going to return is a plain text. Okay, in this case, hello world. If it is a JSON, I'm going to tell content type is application JSON, and I'm going to return a JSON. Okay. So now I'm saying the response is going to end, flush it back to the response. The flushing is a way of saying it's a programming way of saying like send the output or print the output or something like that. Okay, so we are sending the response. That's how you can remember. There is something called response dot. Okay, that is in different response.end. So that is something you can remember. Now I have defined server, and then are we using request somewhere? No. Okay. Now, give me a second. Yeah. Now we need to run the server in any port, in any of the port. So So this is like you are opening your computer's door to the internet or like something like that. This is where it happens. Like you this address in your browser and print it, it will again come to your own machine. Okay, that is why it's called a loopback server address. Like your own system itself will be acting as a server for you. Okay, so now if you expose this thing and then do some things in your ISP router, there is something called port forwarding. You can do that and you get a static IP. Now the outer world, the internet can access this Node.js application as well. But for that, first run this. So it says listening at 127.0.0.1 and in the port 3000. Now I go to my browser and then hit enter. You can see the hello world. So which is this 127.0.0.1 is something similar to local host as well under the hood. Like you can think of this local host as like a website name, and under the website name there should be IP address, right? The IP address is for your local machine, it is 127.0.0.1. Okay. So like I said, this is a loopback address. This will come back to your own machine. So your own machine will act as a server here. The real servers are again another computer, but with some more processing powers. Okay, so that live in the cloud, and then they will expose the IP for you so that people outside the world can use a domain name, map that domain name with the IP address, and then access your website. So under the hood, when they hit the web address, there is a server that is returning your content for them. So in this case, I can show you like you can do as HTML as well. So let me try this. Like let's do H1. I need to restart my server. I go back here, and then you can see we have developed a HTML application. So the similar way you know about this. So who don't know about this particular symbol? Anyone? This particular symbol, the backtick. You know the difference between this and this? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. So this double quotes, you cannot break the line. Okay, JavaScript will complain. But if you want multiple lines, you can use this backtick. So now let's say I'm going to get some free HTML from VS Code. Okay, you copy this, and then I paste it here. Do some formatting. Okay. Now I place the same hello. Let's Sayur this time. Okay. Okay, now you have a website. Can add title as well. So the title says document. We will call it as Sayur MERN class. Again, see, you have a title. Now you have a running website. You can take it, host it somewhere, and you can change it. You can add more and more details. Okay, let's turn on Copilot so that it can add some. I believe I can add some lorem by myself. No? So this is what we call as dummy content. It is not enabled. Enable completions for JavaScript. Yeah. So there is this neat website called lorem ipsum generator. So which means, so this is some gibberish. You can just copy and paste this code. You can like generate, you can click Not able. You can just click generate lorem sum. It will generate this for you. Some 5 paragraphs. You can just sure why I'm not able to copy this thing. My Mac has a brilliant way to copy this. Anyways. Again. So you're wondering what is this lorem ipsum and all this gibberish? It is exactly a gibberish. So we call it as placeholder text. Whenever you are developing a website, the client might not give you all the details. So in between, what you do is like add some placeholder content to fill that place for time being. So that is what it is. So there is another website called lorem ipsum, so which will give you some free images. So let's add some images as well. Go here and then EMG, SRC, and then we will put our image, give some alt tag, give some width around so 200, 300, right? Oops. Okay. Go back, go to our server, refresh it. Voila. We're seeing the image. Okay, already you have a working website. Any doubts so far?
So,
yeah.
Just a question actually. Is it possible rather than typing all this, you can actually send it as file itself, HTML file?
Of course you can. You can take this. So Node.js is a server-side programming language. You can read a file, right? So which means I can name it as like index.html and then put it here. And then what I can do, like I don't remember the code exactly, so which means you can read the HTML from /index.html file and send it to the client. So which means you can do, you can so there is this inbuilt module called FS, which is called file system, which can read your file. So read file sync is like it synchronously reads your file, which means it blocks the code and synchronously reads the file and then it sends it back. So let's see if it works. And interestingly, it is not working. Why? Because it is throwing some error. Because require is a common JS module system. So instead, what we can do is like we can do read file sync and then we import it from the Node.js and we change this code. And then we move this read file sync above this and I define it as a const HTML. I read the HTML from okay, yeah, /index.html, and then I will send that HTML back. Okay, let's try to run this. Wow. So is it confusing or is it clear, Akash?
Yes.
So what we did is like we defined our index.html in a separate file and we read the file. Like it gives you a stream reader. When you call it as a stream reader, it is the HTML whatever file you want. Like you can read this. This is a utility which is provided by the Node.js to read a file. Okay, so you can see it. You can hover over it and see. So written the contents of the bot. Okay, not this one. If you command click this, you can see here. So returns the contents of the path, and it will internally returns you a buffer, which is like the binary of that file, which is it will read the file and gives the contents for you. So once you get the content, and then once it returns it back, I think you can even mention the encoding. So in this case, it is UTF-8 encoding, which is a common type of encoding we use. When I say encoding, it is the type of how your contents in the file are converted into proper text. Like, so in this case, I can even print Tamil, right? So how does the browser understand? That is where all this the encoding part comes in. It uses this UTF-8, which is a Unicode format, where it will format your text and properly render it for you. Okay. So for now, you can like think of it like it will help you properly render English as English instead of something else. Okay. Any doubts so far? So we have built our
No, sir.
Okay. So now we get into the land of packages. Like if you want to do something, there are things like Node.js, Node HTTP, which are built in Node.js modules, but you might need some external packages, like you use React in front end or any other libraries in the front end. In Python, you might be using MySQL or Pandas, scikit-learn, all those stuff. Right? These are external modules you install using pip. So who are all familiar with pip? Python package manager. Nobody? Okay. Pawan knows it. Aravind, Akash, Amalya, have you heard of pip?
Yes, sir. I heard some.
Pip install package.
Yeah,
if you
pip
want.
install. So it installs the external module for you. Those external modules are being developed by some developers like us, who decided like whatever I have developed might be helpful for others. I post it in a open space where so Python has provided this system for the developers to publish their modules. So it's just like, so this is that website. So you go and search for packages like Pandas, which is a famous data handling library or whatever they call it. I'm not very good at Python, so I don't know the exact name of that. Like it can import text CSV and all those stuff. You can play around with CSV text files and all those stuff. But anyways, so yeah, this is the package manager provided by Python, and similarly, Node.js has something called NPM, Node Package Manager. So this will allow you to search packages. In this case, we are going to use something called Express, which is a famous web server model. Node.js by itself has a web server built in, but you have to do so all this stuff, right? Let's say you are going to return a JSON in the API. You already know what is a JSON, right? Anybody know? So all of you know JSON, right? Give a thumbs up. If you don't know what is a JSON, I can explain it again. Okay, everybody knows what is a JSON. Okay, so JSON is like, even if when you use any programming languages which need to be any server-side programming language which need to communicate with the browser, it should speak the language of the browser, right? You can write code in Java, you can write code in Python, Node.js, anything like even C or Rust or anything. So it need to communicate with the browser in the language that the browser understands. So in this case, that is JSON. So JSON is a language independent, like programming language independent format where the server-side programming language communicate with the browser. So whatever the programming language do, end of the day, they will return this JSON to the browser, and the browser will take that JSON and like we know a browser can run JavaScript. So JavaScript understands JSON because after all, it is JavaScript object notation. So JavaScript you will loop through it and then you display it. Similarly, like if you go to JSON type code, which we already know, it returns data in JSON format. So we don't know what server-side programming language this particular website is using. It can be Node.js, it can be C#.NET, it can be Elixir, or whatever it is. But end of the day, they should return this JSON. Then only the browser will understand. They cannot return PHP code or C# code or Erlang code or something like that. So end of the day, they should return JSON. So for that is what we call as a API, right? So application programming interface. I have a application. I am giving an interfacing layer to communicate with that application. In this case, our server-side application is Node.js. If we build an interface layer for the browser to communicate with the server, that is what we call as API, application programming interface. Okay. Now, instead of returning HTML, we can return JSON as well here. We just change the application format to, say, header format to like application JSON, and then you can send a JSON file like I believe this should work, but okay. What happened? The chunk argument must be of type string. Oh, I don't know if it is a response dot. This on here. To stop like this. Yeah, you get JSON here. So you can pretty much like copy this thing and then paste it here as well. I think you understand it right anyways. Okay. So yeah, you can send a JSON, but you can see the difficulty here, right? I even myself haven't used this plain Node.js session. Where I'm going here, this. So this is where you need a external package which abstracts things for you and makes your life easier to do things in a faster and like more easier way. Okay. So in this case, the package we have seen is Express, which will I will delete all these things. How do we install a package now? So Node.js has a beautiful way of doing this. Like you can just do whenever you install Node.js, npm is already there for you. Okay, you don't need to install npm separately. You can just do npm init, and it will ask you some questions like what is the package name. You can just hit enter for everything. Or so now I will delete this file. I will explain you what is that package JSON. Either you hit enter for everything, or you give npm init -y. It will automatically say yes for everything, and it creates this package.json, which is very important. Okay, so what this package.json does is like it contains all the necessary information of your application. So it has the name of the application. You can name it whatever you want. You give some version. This is something like you publish this particular version now, and then you decide to update something, and you can change that version to 1.2.0. So there is a meaning in this 1.2.0. I will come back to this. We call it a semantic versioning. So the first version is major version. This is a patch. This is a minor version. This is a patch version. Okay. Whenever someone upgrades this version, that is a very minor upgrade. That is a patch upgrade, minor upgrade, and whenever they upgrade this part to 2.0, this is a major upgrade. So just remember that. And main is the first file which is going to be run, which is in our case is index.js, and any other scripts you want to execute, you can paste it here like testing. And forget about this keyword and author. In this case, the name of the person who is writing this code, and license. So do you want to give this code for free, or you want to make it as closed source and you decide to sue people who are uses your code. So all these things you can decide based on this license. Give some description, and most important thing is, which is not here, is dependencies. Now, either you can mention the dependencies here, like I say, express, and then give the version directly here. How can I get the version? Either you can go here, go to express, and then take this version and then paste it here. But people don't do that way. They just do. You can see that here itself. npm install express. I use the shortcut way of saying install, but for the first time I will use the whole thing. Is npm install, name of the package express, and yeah, there you go. It automatically added this for you, right? So now this external package has known. How I'm going to use this external package? Anyone? Go on. How do we import? I already told the answer. Import this express. So we say import, and then from where? From express. So that is what we have installed, right? So when I installed, you can see there is a folder called node_modules got created. So all these things I did not install array flatten, body parser, cookie signature, and all those stuff. But how did all these things come in? Because Express by itself has a package.json inside it. If you go to Express GitHub repo, since it is an open source repo, you can directly go to Express code. If you see here, you can see all these modules: accepts, body parser, cookie, which is what you are seeing here. So this is another Node.js module or application. You should call it as module. It's not an application because it cannot run a standalone. You will use this in another Node.js application to make your life easier. Okay, so all the packages which are required by this Express is in this package.json. We are using this Express and saving our own time. For like without Express, you have to do all these things by yourself. Okay, I'll tell you like how Express works. But so you can import Express, the default module, which is another new thing for you. I'll tell you. Okay, there should be something called export default. But whenever you export something by default, you cannot destructure and import it. Like I'll show you how it works. Instead of export const, I can say export default, and then I can call it as that. I cannot put a const before default. So now the way I import the import from our utils.js, the way I import, now you can see, you can only see say hello. You cannot see the add module because add is exported by default, which you need to do something like this. If I command click this, it goes to the add. Okay, so this is a default export. So likewise, Express has a default export, so which I have done, but it has a named exporter. It has some named export as well, like text, static, all these things, which are some helper methods. Now, what is Express? Express is a convenient way to create your Node.js server. So you just define a const, we call it as app or something, and then you can do app.get. Now this is a, so what are all the CRUD operations? Tell me. I should turn off this. Disable completions. Yeah. What are all the CRUD operations? What are the method names? Come on, guys. It's already 10.
Update, delete.
No, what are the method names? Yes, correct. That is create, read, update, and delete. What are the method names? What is for create? the HTTP method names. So good. Come on, guys, I'm going to call out names. Arvind, Amulya, Akash, anyone? One.
Post.
Get post get.
Get, post, put, delete. Why are you taking so much time to say this? Get, post, which is create, put is update, and delete. Okay, now app.get. This is a get request, and app.post. You can post something like this. So let's say you are going to post form or something like that. That happens here, like form data or something. It happens here, and you decide to update that form in your to-do application. You are creating a new to-do here, and you are updating a to-do here, and you are deleting a to-do here. That's all. Your API is ready. Now you listen in port 3000, and then your server is running. That's all. So that is how easy to create a API here. You have a full-fledged API layer now. So to return JSON, instead of doing all this application JSON and everything, you just say JSON. The Express will already add that header called application JSON for you, which we were adding manually in the built-in Node.js HTTP server. Now it is being added for you. And now let's run this code. So now, instead of doing node index.js, since I have a package.json, I can define a script here. And there is a default script called start. And I can mention what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do node index. I'm going to run node index.js. So this is a script which you can run from npm. You can do npm, and then whatever name you have given here, you can do start. Now you can see. So one more thing you might want to do is, like, since you are using this should not be here, like reparsing a CS module system was detected. So even though it supports ESM modules by default, you need to you can see this common JSON module, right? So this is what we were talking about. So the module is ESM, and the common JS is the old common JS module system, which is not recommended to use. So what Node.js complaint is, explicitly tell me like you are going to use ESM modules, which we are saying here. And I do npm start. It's not complaining now, running the server in port 3000. Now we go back to port 3000. Where is our server? See, our JSON is written. Okay. Now we have a running HTTP server, like API server, which can accept post, get, put and delete and everything. Next class, maybe we can connect to a database from here. We can run a Postgres database and connect it. Whenever we receive a post request, we can do const response.body. Sorry, I mean request.body. Because the post payload comes in the request body, and then we take that request body, which is our list of to-dos, and then here we save it in the database. Save it to a database. Okay, and then we return it, and then input. Similar way, we get the response.body. We can update it in the database. Here, delete. We can get the ID of the to-do, and then we delete in the database. All these things we can do. This is the whole API which we have built. Any doubts in this? We are going to close the class here. So any final doubts I'll clear, and then I'll close the class. All good? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So one thing I missed is this package.log.json. Why do we have this file? Because you can see some version here, right? 421. So this cap symbol as well here. So there is a meaning for this caret symbol. So which has okay, I'll show you this. So this is a website for semantic versioning. This is a standard that says what is okay, don't know. Sadly, the major, minor, and the patch release, and we are saying like this can update the patch version by itself whenever. Like I can share this code with you, right? Like if I do git init, and then I have 522 files in the git. The reason is like node modules is also getting added. Whenever you push the Node.js code to the GitHub repo, make sure you create a new file called .gitignore. So which means you need to ignore this node modules folder. So node_modules. You should not push this node modules folder to GitHub. Okay, now you can see only 6 files are changed. I believe you all are familiar with Git, right? If yes, gives a thumbs up. Else, okay, right. I see initial commit. I'll come back to this package.log.json. And I commit it. I'm going to publish my branch. Call it a server-side.js. Make it a public repository, and it's published. Okay. Now I go to my GitHub repo, and I share it in our chat window. Okay. Okay, I have shared it in the chat window. You can open and see it. Now you can see you. So this okay, I will come back to this package.log.json again. But you can clone this repo, and then you can run npm install, and again this node modules folder will be created for you. I'll show you. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to delete this node modules folder. It's not here. Now if I give just npm install, you can just give I, but if you give npm install, this node modules folder is created again. Again, all the Express related packages are downloaded for you. How does it does that? Any idea? When I give npm install, how does it downloads all the Express related code? Anyone? Come on, guys. It's already 10:20. Anyone try this?
From servers.
So when I give npm install, so some file has the information that it needs to install Express module. Which file among this? So I'm running npm install in the same
package.json.
Correct. So package.json has this dependencies, and it says Express 4.21.1. So when I do npm install, this npm install will check the current folder, which is this particular folder, where it will check if there is a package.json. Now, yes, there is a package.json, and it will check for something called dependencies. Now, yes, there is a dependencies, and it is not empty. It has something called Express. Now, npm will connect to the internet. If I disconnect the internet, this won't work. Connect to the internet. It goes to npm's repository, download this Express.json and install it. So that is why we don't want this node modules to be pushed to GitHub, because anyone who is cloning my repo, they can easily do npm install and then install the node modules for me. So you don't have to push all these files to GitHub and pollute the repository. Okay, does it make sense?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Super. And this package.log.json, what it does is like whenever you, that's why I postponed explaining this package.log.json. Now, if I delete this node module, you will run the npm install in your machine. Now, at that particular time, it should respect this 4.2.1, and it should not go ahead and install any updated version. Okay, so it will lock all the internal versions for you, because here you are clearly telling it is 4.21.1. But for all other modules, what it's going to do is like, even though in future, I don't know how to tell that. Like it will log the version of all these modules for you. That's all. You can just keep it in mind. So it's not that important. So it just logs the version of all the internal modules for you. All these encode URL and everything is the modules used by package JSON. So this log.json will log those versions for you. So two files. Most important one is package.json, which has the dependencies. And there is one more thing called dev dependencies, which we can discuss later. But keep in mind about this dependencies. And to summarize, we saw about why JavaScript can run both in browser and server. How JavaScript runs in the server, because a guy named Ryan Dahl extracted this V8 engine, put it in isolated way to give you a way to run it separately so that it can be run in a server. Now, is Node.js is the only runtime? No, there is one, and there is Dino, which is created by the same person who created Node.js. And you have packages which can be installed to make your life easy. Use package.json to install those packages. You have npm, which is Node Package Manager. And one more thing, we can have this git ignore file, which you can ignore any file you want to be sent to Git. So once you put this git ignore and put some files here, even if I put utils.js here, the util.js won't be tracked by Git. Okay, any changes to util.js won't be tracked by Git. So yeah. Any doubts?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Awesome. So this is a very long class, but I believe it was useful for you all. Hey, why Amulya has gone? Somehow she's gone. Okay. Any doubts or anything? We will close the class. I'll stop the recording.